For as long as time, there has been the unexplained, the strange, the scary, the paranormal. And for as long as time, there have been those of us uniquely in tune with the spirits and strangeness that surround us. The paranormal does not belong to any one path or religion, because it has always just been. Ghosts, spirits, entities, demons, and things that go bump in the night, the stuff of nightmares and of stories. We always fear what we don't understand, but knowledge is power. So join me for a pagan's paranormal perspective. Come learn about spirits and demons and entities and more. Come explore the darker side of the paranormal. Arm yourself with knowledge. Understand that in darkness there is light, and in light there is darkness. One would not exist without the other. My goal is to make you think deeper. Question what you think you know, and hopefully leave with an open mind. So join me on P3, Pagan's Paranormal Perspective, if you dare. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to P3. This is your host, Onyx Moon, and I'm really glad that you could join me tonight. I've got some fun stuff going on here tonight. I've got a wonderful guest. Danny Brown is coming on tonight to talk with us. He is another paranormal investigator, and he's also pagan. So exactly what this show is supposed to be about is Pagan's Paranormal Perspective, because it is a little bit different. I know my first show we jumped right in onto some demons and crazy stuff, so we're going to backtrack just a little bit. The whole reason I wanted to do this kind of show is because we do this a lot differently than a lot of the paranormal groups out there. There's so many paranormal groups, there's so much stuff you see on TV, and I kind of want you folks to have a real understanding of what actually happens as opposed to somebody that's out looking for proof. Because I can guarantee you that the percentage of pagan people that are doing this, we don't give a rat's patoot about proof, because it's not about proof to us, because we know it exists. I think pagans have a singularly different perspective on this from the get-go, because we are more spiritually oriented. We are more in tune to things around us than some of the other ones that want to, I don't know. I don't want to bash anybody's belief, but it's just a matter of, we look at things differently, and I think we as pagans know that. So parts of this show, and not just tonight's, but in general, is going to be about things that you can do to protect yourself, or to figure out if you need help, or how to help someone, or how to help yourself, how to protect yourself, things you should be doing versus what you shouldn't. So there'll be a lot of that kind of information, even as far as, eventually rituals and spells of sorts, or spell packs or herb packs, things that you can do when you're dealing with the paranormal that give you an edge over the competition. So initially, right now, I want to introduce my guest to you. I've been wanting to have him on a paranormal show for a while, but things kept getting a little bit sideways, and we've now found a home here that they let me talk. So I'm going to bring Danny on. Danny, hi. Say good evening to everybody.
Hello, how are you?
I am fine tonight. I'm wonderful, and I'm so glad you could join us.
I am too. I've been looking forward to it for a while.
Okay, now I did warn a few of my friends. They are going to love your accent, young man. I just love listening to you talk, and I believe they're going to like it too. So y'all get a load of that lovely Southern accent. But anyway, all right, Danny. I know. I'm sorry. If this was video, he'd be blushing by now, I'm sure. All right, and so tell everybody about yourself. Tell everybody what you do and that kind of thing.
Well, like you said, I'm a paranormal investigator, and I've been doing this since I was a teenager. I didn't really start incorporating the pagan aspect of it until I got into my 20s.
Okay.
And since then, I have learned a lot more on how to deal with it. Different situations. I use Reiki. I practice Reiki. I use it to, help with whatever situation, help the people that I'm giving assistance to.
All right. So incorporating Reiki, that's a pretty cool thing. So I'm going to ask you now, what is it? What got you started in this field? How did you get about there? What was there some sort of circumstance or something that just kind of like put you in it, or how did you find uh, doing the paranormal thing?
When I was 14 years old, my older brother died of cancer.
Oh wow, I'm so
And
sorry.
after that, he would start visiting me. And that's what really started to open my eyes about it. And then when I got, a little older teenager, me and my friends would go visit, cemeteries that were haunted and stuff like that. And it just really opened up my passion for it.
Oh cool.
But the whole cemetery thing and going to like these old abandoned hospitals, that's fun, but that's not where my passion is. My passion is helping people.
Absolutely, and I see that a lot with the people that are, I call it, there's people that deal with the paranormal, and that it's a genuine calling, and it's for that reason. It's about the people that are dealing with things that they don't understand, or, they've grown up in an uber mainstream religious path, and they're freaked out from the get-go. Everybody thinks everything's a demon because that's what they see on TV. Everybody thinks it's all bad, and the people that I have found that I have been lucky enough to come across for the most part are in this for the right reasons. And like you said, it's the passion of helping people understand what's going on. And I mean, there's hauntings that are not bad hauntings. Like I talked with Lady Spice last week, we were talking about not everything that goes bump in the night is a demon. And I think that Hollywood has really kind of messed us up on that course because, everybody then that's watched all these shows or, seen the movies or done this and that, they automatically assume that, anything that does something is evil. So they get themselves all freaked out. And I mean, it's frustrating. Have you found that to be true?
Yes. I mean, there are things that can appear to be demonic, but is not. It's usually arrived from a spirit that was human, that was alive, that was human, that has a lot of anger or bitterness, sadness, that kind of thing after they pass, and because of that, it can seem like something that is demonic. But if you have ever faced anything demonic, then you know the difference in energies.
Yeah, absolutely. But people that don't have a clue and all they've seen is TV, they're automatically assuming that, and then they tend to get themselves in more trouble. Kind of what, like last week again, I'm going to go back to Lady Spice. We talked about thought forms and giving things that are not inherently demon or evil, and by automatically assuming that's what they are and naming them and calling them demons and stuff, it's almost like you manifest, you give them power, you feed them, and then they become, more trouble, so to speak.
Oh yeah, well yes, that's very true. I mean, they are fed this negative energy that people are using to associate them with these evil beings, and things start getting rough from there.
Yeah, they do. They do. They really do manifest that differently. I mean, I think it's a shame that Hollywood makes it, and even the paranormal shows. So many of them are kind of so skewed one way. People think that, I don't know. I think there's a rash of people that got into the paranormal investigating business when this started getting popular. I know, like, I've been doing it long before it was the thing to do. Um, just because
Oh yeah.
that's what you did. But at the same time, unfortunately, Hollywood has given such a bad name to that. Or you go to an investigation, or these newbies or wannabes or whatever, they go to do an investigation, and all of a sudden nothing happens, which is, I would say, 8 times out of 10, truly nothing happens. um, so Hollywood's made everybody think, well, if nothing happens, then it's not haunted, or people are or not believing these people that actually have problems. Sometimes it takes more than once, and sometimes you got to sneak it in.
Hmm.
because I find, and I'm going to ask you this too, I find that the groups that get so obsessed about the equipment, and they got to have this and they got to have that and they have to have all this film crew and all this craziness going on, I find that really limits what they're actually going to get, because if you've got an intelligent haunt, it isn't like they're not going to notice all that stuff going on.
No.
And I think they do themselves more damage by doing it that way. So I'm going to ask, do you have a particular way? How do you decide what oh gosh, what's the word? I'm sorry. I'm misspeaking right now. How do you decide what constitutes something that you really need to go investigate? What kind of background do you have to do, or do you do? What is your process, I guess?
Well, usually, if somebody approaches me with a problem, I ask them, the typical questions. Um, do you have you had your electricity checked? Make sure there's no shorts. Uh, you know, how old is the house? It could be just the house creaking, making noises. Sounds like footsteps walking. I ask that kind of thing. And what really makes me want to go help people is if they start talking about physical things that's happened to them, like hair being pulled, being touched,
Hmm.
somebody speaking, that kind of thing.
So when it sounds like a genuine situation where somebody could get hurt, because I mean it's a sad thing that we have to tend to weed out the Cocoa Puffs. You know what I mean? Because there's people that, it's like they want their 5 minutes of fame. They want their, and they're going to make stuff up. So, I know a lot of times I kind of have to use my intuition. Um, I know that when I've, my process is similar to that. I mean, of course, I have the list of questions, and we all have I have the paperwork, and sometimes we use it, sometimes we don't. I tend to go with my gut. If I really believe that there's something wrong, or something even wrong with the person. Like Lady Spice in the chat asked, "Do you ask about mental illness?" And I think probably you do, because I know I do. We find out, who's on medication and, if that's an issue. But my process is a little bit different. If I'm going to go investigate, I want to meet them outside the house in neutral ground to talk to them before I go anywhere near the
I
house.
prefer to do that too. I want to meet them outside of that environment, and if I get a sense of like their fear, if their fear is real and it's more than just one person,
Right.
that clues me.
Yeah, that is a very good clue because, yeah, it does freak people out that are genuinely having problems. The second thing I do, the first time I go to their house, I'd usually go alone. And I go as a guest to observe, to not discuss anything with, not witchy, not to discuss anything ghosty, but especially if they've said that, depending on the situation. I've had people say, well, even when I have guests come over, strange things happen and whatever. So I'm like, good, then, on this night or whatever, at this time, I'm going to come over and I'm just going to be a guest. And we're going to sit around and watch TV and talk and have a soda or whatever. And I'm just going to observe and I'm going to hang out and I'm going to see what I get. And after that point, whether anything happens or not, because I'm kind of a sensitive, so generally, I've people laugh at me because I'm like the spook magnet. Okay. Um, if there's a spook in the house and I'm there and I'm ignoring them, they get pissed off because they know I know they're there. So if there's a real spook in the house, they tend to make themselves known to me in one fashion or another. Um, and if I really get a sense that there's something off, even if they're not like making contact with me, I can, it's like the hairs on my arms stand up or the back of my, you know what I mean? You have those little tells,
Okay.
and that's how it's always been for me because I've gone to people's houses and I'm like, well, you've got, somebody over and, oh yeah, well, there's always something going on over there. Well, but they don't talk about it because they don't think about it. And that's not something I have to go investigate. I'm like, it, just as long as you're good with it, we're okay. you know, so that's kind of an
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I kind of do the same thing. I'll go to a house and I'll tell them. I mean, they'll tell me their situation, but I'll make sure they don't tell me where it's happened at in the house.
Right.
I don't want them to tell me that this happened in the bedroom, this happened in the living room. I want to go in and try to feel the energy in these places, in these particular spots.
Yep. A cold read, yeah, and that's generally good. I mean, sometimes they've told me, sometimes they tell you stories and they get them out before you can stop them. But I don't usually share that with anybody else that I'm going to bring in because I want to see what they get. So it's okay that I know, but I try to keep it, if I've got other team members and stuff to go with, because that way I'm not disposing them to oh yeah, maybe this is a hot spot over here. So I don't do that. Yeah, so that's a good thing. That's definitely a good way to help them figure out. So are there any interesting stories you want to tell? Is there anything that stands out in your mind as one of those times that maybe you got caught off guard, that there really was something there you didn't think there was?
No, I don't think there's anything really along those lines.
Okay.
There was one instance where me and this group that I used to go on these investigations with went to this house. Well, it was a trailer, a double wide trailer.
Uh-huh.
And we went because the guy that owned it said that when they cleared the land and they put the trailer on this property, they found like 5 graves right inside of the tree line.
Oh, wow.
Surrounding it. And that weird things is going on. So he asked us if we would come and do an investigation. And this was back when I was really starting on the pagan path. So he knew that, and that's why he was asking me if I would come and help. So me and my group that I worked with at the time went and looked.
Uh-huh.
And so we did the usual with the walking around with the voice recorder and the cameras, and we wasn't really getting a whole lot. Well, another member of the group that I worked with, he kind of started to antagonize it.
Wow.
And he was like, antagonizing, trying to make it mad. And it worked. The TV started making, white noise, static noise that
right.
it do. But it was off and unplugged.
Oh.
Yeah, that was very thrilling for us.
Yeah.
And then we started taking more pictures and stuff after that happened, and we caught a lot of good images of like shadow figures and things like that. But I went and took a picture of a mirror that they had in the living room.
Uh-huh.
And in the picture was the face of a demon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was scary because this is my first experience I ever had with something demonic.
Yeah, no, that's when you're not expecting it, that can kind of sneak up on you for sure. We are at our first commercial break. We'll be right back, and we'll be talking some more with Danny about some other ghosty stuff. So stick around with us for just a minute. Looking for authentic pagan wares? Then check out Onyx Moon Emporium, where they offer an eclectic mix of metaphysical and spiritual related items, handcrafted using old recipes and traditions, where everything is created in small batches by authentic and experienced practitioners. Their promise to customers is authenticity. From witchy items, conjure goods, setting of lights, to a wide selection of magical and conditioned oils. Also handcrafted wooden grimoires and journals, made to order magical candles in all shapes, sizes, and intents. From angel kits to gree-gree, herbs and curios, from naughty to nice and everything in between. Many items are custom made, so they are uniquely yours. Special orders welcome, and if you have an idea for something you're not finding, they're happy to work with you. Need an oil that's not listed? A spell you can't find? Looking for that hard-to-find herb or curio? They probably have it, or they can make it. Visit them at onyxmoonemporium.com or find them on Facebook. Onyx Moon Emporium. From angels to Zen, find everything for your magical life.
Looking for that special item for your mantle or that one-of-a-kind gift for the love of your life? Visit us at Sleeping Griffin. We offer many items from pyrography to metaphysical supplies. Choose one of our regular designs on a keepsake box, crystal grid, or even design your own. Need a little help with your practice? Choose from our selection of organic, hand-mixed binding salts. Come and see our Etsy shop at Sleeping Griffin or visit our website at sleepinggriffin.net, where spirituality and functionality come together.
And welcome back to P3, Pagan's Paranormal Perspective. Once again, this is your host, Onyx Moon, and my wonderful special guest, Danny Brown, and we've been talking about some of the pagan paranormal things, the way we do things, what's kind of a little bit different. So I'm going to kind of skip to that for a second. What do you see as the difference between how you look at this from a pagan's perspective versus maybe some of the other paranormal groups that you've seen? What do you think is the difference between the way we go into things?
I think it's really it's science versus spirituality.
Yes,
mostly like you were talking about with the Hollywood and TV shows. They have all this equipment and they're wanting to prove something. They want to catch it on camera. Where us, as a general rule, as pagans, are sensitive to the spiritual. So we pretty much already know they're there.
Exactly.
If they're there.
Yep. So we go at it from the thing is, I have nothing to prove, but these people are scared and I need to know, I need to do what I can to help them.
Yeah. I mean, I do have my camera and I do have my voice recorder, but I just do that for my own files.
Right. And you know what? EVP is awesome. I've got to have a voice recorder because you never know what you're going to get with EVP. I've heard some really interesting EVPs, and funny enough, even if they're real, but even some of the paranormal shows and the Hollywood shows with their EVP stuff, sometimes they catch some stuff that's, pretty right up there. I mean, there's a few of them that I think that it's all like make-believe and baloney, and I'm not going to mention names, but there's a couple of the shows I've seen that are legit. And I really like the few that have used the psychics or the sensitives and the mediums and stuff, because you get a whole nother layer to what's going on in a house, especially, if it's a bad one. Because I like to warn people, I've said it, 100 times. I'll probably say it 100 more. Not everything that goes bump in the night is a demon, but there are those cases that even if it's not a demon and it's just a nasty, nasty whatever, whether it's a spirit or a ghost or, some other thing, that stuff gets scary and people get scared, and rightly so.
That is very true.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not all Hollywood and fantasy and make-believe, because we know that this stuff happens and it exists. We know that there are sometimes tears in the veil. We know that sometimes there are actually portals that have been open, or ground that is just already attached, and people build a brand new house there and have no idea why they have a ghost. Well, because it's attached to the ground. It doesn't necessarily have to be the house. Or it could be something that you inherited, this piece of furniture that has an attachment. It could be, anything. And, our job sometimes is to, we say we're paranormal investigators, is to investigate that and try to figure out what's going on. One thing I want to ask you, how do you feel about the word debunk? When all those shows say they're debunking this and they're debunking that. I just want to know what your view is. And I'm sorry, I caught you off guard with that. I'll tell you. I'll tell you mine. I think it's insulting and rude, and I never use that word if I can. I don't mind coming up with explanations for things, but I don't know, to tell somebody, oh well, we've got to try to debunk your story. To me, I think that's hurtful. For somebody that has opened themselves up and made themselves vulnerable to you by telling you this crazy story that they think they're going to get locked up in the cuckoo house to begin with, and you're, oh well, debunk. I don't know. It flies in my face when I hear people talk about debunking stuff. Why would you say that? That's just, to me, rude and insulting. So, but That's my opinion.
Yeah, I honestly never really thought about it like that before. Um, I mean, I myself never used it, but that's just, I don't know, I just never used it. I'd usually just go in, okay, let me see if this is the cause. If not, okay, well then what is the cause? Is it something physical or is it something spiritual causing this to happen? I've never actually used the word debunk.
Good. Well, I knew you wouldn't, because I think you and I work very similarly. I knew you wouldn't, but it's just, I don't know. That's just kind of one of my pet peeves that I had to get out there because, I never want to insult somebody that has opened themselves up and said, look, there's something in my house I can't figure out what it is or where it's coming from and that kind of thing. So I always want to be respectful of the people um, that are, being vulnerable and opening themselves up. I just think it's
Yeah. I mean, it's all about the respect for the client and respect for the spirit there if they have one.
and that's something that we don't talk about enough. That is really something what you just said was a very good point, was respecting the spirit that's there. So many times, and I don't know if you found this to be true, but so many times people think something's going on. Glasses are moving, cabinets are opening, chairs are shifting, and they freak themselves out and they think they've got, big bad in their house. And sometimes it turns out to be a past family member or somebody that just wants you to know they're there. Sometimes all they're looking for is um, recognition. Sometimes all you have to do is acknowledge them and talk to them and give them boundaries. I mean, personally, like I've said before, my house is warded. So generally things that have a malicious intent don't get in my house. But there are those that are, it's like a ghost, yeah, like Ghost Central. It's transient. But I have guidelines and rules. They're not allowed in my bedroom when I'm sleeping. And, that's pretty much my big thing. You're not allowed in my bedroom. But other times things can happen. But I've always known when it was something that was just either curious or possibly a family member just checking in. I've got grandparents and things like that that I really do believe that just like pop in every now and then and see what the kids are doing, that kind of thing. And I think that I always try to talk to people gently about that kind of thing, especially if they've had someone pass fairly recently, because we as pagans know that that death is not just the end, and I really think that a lot of family members do come back and check on us or that kind of thing. And you don't want to be going in there with the salt and the holy water and the crosses and banishing these spirits out of my house, which is what the Hollywood types would be doing. Because it could be just somebody that just wants to say, hey, I'm okay, how are ya, that kind of thing. And I think it's important to find out, and as we're investigating, and give that ghost a little bit of respect. Sometimes that goes such a long way.
That's true. Like you said, a lot of times it is family members coming and looking in on loved ones. And I have had experiences with that. Well, with my brother, for one.
Yep.
And I've also dealt with just ghosts passing through, curious about this house, this family. They check them out, and then they leave.
Yep. Not causing any harm. And a lot of times it's really funny that, I've told people, they just want to be, acknowledged. So the light flickers, you say, okay, all right, Hank, I know you're here, behave, something silly, and it'll settle down. If you acknowledge that they're there and they feel, justified, and then you end up with like good ghosts that are actually there to like keep the bad ones out. To me it's kind of like, okay, and this is going to be a really whacked analogy, but some people know this. If you have a mouse in your house, that you're not going to have a rat because they won't cohabitate. That's how I look about some of the transient ghosts. I know it's a whacked out analogy, but it's the truth. If you've got a mouse, you're not going to have rats, and that's just, nature. So I figure if I've got like Casper hanging out, I'm not gonna get, I'm good with Casper. Casper's welcome anytime, but he can keep his, the Three Stooges ones, out the door, that kind of thing. It makes, yeah, I know, it sounds.
I was thinking the same thing.
Good, because it's just, and it works like that, and not every situation is different, and I think if people understand that and don't jump to conclusions about anything, paranormal investigating is fun. It can be, but it can also be dangerous. I think, and I think you'll agree with me, one of the things that annoys me the absolute most, listening to some of the other paranormal shows, is like, oh, I got scratched. Oh, I got pushed down the stairs. Oh, I got this. Oh, I got that. Really? You're proud that something is physically harming you or your crew? You're happy because, oh, I have proof now. I have scratches on my arm. Really? That's how you treat your fellow investigators, is, put them out as bait? That makes me insane. I want to just shake people and say, or have you bumped your head? Why would you do that? And again, for them, it's that almighty, we have to prove it. No. If I go in, okay, this is my ghost hunting thing. I don't know what I don't know what your pack is like, or your kit. I have salt, generally blessed white salt and black salt, and I have holy water. And each of my people that come in have an herb packet that they can pen on them on their bodies, that, like in a little sachet kind of thing. But they are specific herbs to help prevent that kind of thing. It doesn't mean the ghosts aren't going to let you know they're there. It just means you have that extra layer of protection from being attacked or physically harmed, because we don't want that. I will frequently leave that kind of stuff, monster spray, stuff like that, with the homeowners as well. But the thing I do with that, once that investigation is done, especially if there's been anything uber negative, is when I leave that, as I step off that premise, I dump that packet. That packet does not go home with me. That packet gets dumped outside their yard, because whatever's attached itself to it is not coming home with me. And that also works to help suck them out of the house for a small banishing of sorts, because of the herb mix that I use, But so what is your process?
Yeah, I have herb packets. I use salt and black salt. Use sage, white sage, lavender, mullein. I can never.
Mullinin. Yeah,
Mullein.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I use all of the major ones for getting rid of baddies.
Right. And I think that's a responsible way to do it. And I think it's a responsible way to explain it to the people, the homeowners. I mean, because you can leave them stuff that empowers them. And a lot of times, if it's just a silly ghost, but they're still uncomfortable, I make them take the lead and say, this is my house. These are my guidelines. You have to leave, or this, that kind of thing. And I think that as pagans, we're pretty good about trying to make sure that the people we're helping are self-empowered to a lot of degrees, whether they are regardless as to what their religious path is. Because I can pull out a Bible passage as easy as I could write a spell and give them that, if that's going to help them. Psalms are great. But I am also, I'm an ordained minister. So, I've studied a lot, and I think that helps me being able to talk to people about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, let's see, the last family I helped, I left them a bundle of sage, and I also took sage and dumped it outside of the front of their house.
Right.
To, kind of go along with the same lines you were saying. And I made them sachets to keep there.
Good.
Because they were being attacked in their dreams.
Oh.
Yeah, so I made them sachets to help them with that, to keep them clear-minded.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all that, and it seemed to work. They last time I talked with the mother, she said that they haven't had any bad dreams. The mother was even able to come off of her antidepressants.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I was quite happy for them.
Yep. Sometimes, sometimes that's all it takes. I mean, they need a little magical boost or a little magical something that we give them. And I know that you said you use Reiki as well. And I find myself doing that, Reikiing pretty much everybody and everything, and they don't even know it, And half the time, anymore, I don't even know that I'm doing it until it's done. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, so that's what that was. But yeah, Reiki's a wonderful thing, to give somebody some peace and stuff. And and like I said, I know you're like me, and that's what we do it for, is to give people a little bit of peace and tranquility. But okay, so we are at our second set of commercial break. And I hope y'all are having fun with this chat. I really am. I'm really enjoying having Danny on the show. I think we're getting some good information out there about, some of the different things. And we'll talk some more when we come back from break. So stay tuned, and here's a word from some of our sponsors. Is your ritual cloak ready for the rad bend? Are your guest towels sad and worn? Is your tote bag begging to retire? Then you need Twitch's Stitches. Twitch's Stitches is a custom embroidery shop with a pagan flair. From the classics and everyday designs to ornate ritual style, fantasy, furries, mythical, and so much more. They do t-shirts, ritual capes and cloaks, sweats, towels, blankets, hoodies, totes, and more. You name it, Twitch's Stitches can embroider it. And they love custom orders, so if you don't find what you're looking for, they're only a phone call or a message away. So if you want quality items lovingly crafted and embroidered, you have to check them out on Facebook. And that's www.facebook.com/Twitches Stitches. That's TWITCHES STITCHES. However, we can't be held responsible when your friends and family try to swipe them, so tell them to get their own. Twitches Stitches, for the love of design. Have you been searching for that perfect candle for your project or working? How about for a specific intent? Something other than the big box store candles made from mystery wax? Then look no further. Visit the Waxing Witch on Etsy for the best selection of handcrafted candles anywhere. Pillars, votives, shaped, plus some giftable candles you won't believe. All their candles are made in-house using a variety of waxes: soy, palm, beeswax, paraffin, and all are clearly noted in the listing, so there's no mystery wax here. From a whole line of saints candles to archangel working candles, and you have to see the new Wicked Wonderland spell candles. They're made to work wickedly quick and wonderfully easy. Or the fun new Sanderson sister pillars. Those are a hoot. And I can't forget their skull candles. These are phenomenal. The burn is beautiful, and I really won't work a trick without one. But that's not all. Any candle can be customized with a scent of your choice, or even color if you prefer something different. They love special orders and will work with you to make your candle the way you want it. They do unity candles, hand fasting candles, or candles made for events, so don't hesitate to ask. You won't find folks easier to deal with, and they all come from their little shop on a Louisiana bayou. So do yourself a favor. Check them out on Etsy at The Waxing Witch. That's The Waxing Witch, witch spelled WYTCH. Tell them PBNR sent you for a little surprise with your order. And welcome back to P3. Sorry, I'm freaking out a little bit here, folks. I've got some sort of flying. I thought it was a moth, and it's not a moth. And he's like dive bombing me while I'm on the air. So I guess there's a spirit in my house that is trying to get my attention, and that's okay. I will talk with him later. Me and my trusty fly swatter if he doesn't give me a break right now. We're having so much fun tonight talking with Danny, and I'm really glad he's here. And I hope you guys are enjoying. Um, One of the things that we were talking about is how fast we get to a situation if somebody has a problem. And I wanted to kind of mention that the minute that I find out that there's a child involved, or if a child is being harassed or scared or hurt, um, that's kind of one of those things that I am going to jump on super quick. Because some parents put their children in some really ridiculously scary situations and don't even think about it. Um, how do you feel about that?
I completely agree. The last family that I'd helped, that I talked about just a few minutes ago,
Uh-huh.
is a family with two young girls. And these girls are very sensitive anyway, so they attract things.
Oh boy, oh yeah.
When I found out that they were having trouble, I immediately went as soon as I could.
And that's great. That to me always lends a bit sense of urgency because you get some people that want to get a hold of you because the cabinet's open in the morning and they know they closed it last night. Well, you know what? That's going to rate about a 2 on my scale. Versus somebody that says, my child can't sleep at night because he swears there's a monster in the closet or a monster under the bed and that kind of thing. That's going to rate about an 8. Um, the minute they say that a child has been touched or something, you know, more than that, that's going to rate like a 12 out of a 10. And I'm going to be there with everything I got. I really, really would like to encourage people that if you are in a house that has a situation, if you have children in your house, even if you're not having a situation, if your 3-year-old or your 4-year-old says, I didn't do it, Mommy, Tommy did it, okay? You need to have that conversation with that child. Okay, honey, who's Tommy? If you can't see him, have him describe him to you. Where does he come from? Where does he stay? Talk to him about Tommy. Don't ever assume that your child is making it up. Because that's when you get into trouble. Because especially small children, 4 or 5, they really do not have the capacity to be making that stuff up yet. They really don't. They don't have that capacity to make that stuff up. They learn by they're more sensitive when they're children. They are more in tune to things that maybe we forgot or we can't see. So please don't ever put your child at risk by poo-pooing their stories. I think that's one thing about parents that make me nuts when they do that to their kids, because believe them and get them some help if you can. And do you have anything to add to that, Mr. Danny?
Yeah, actually, my daughter went through a similar situation when she was 3.
Oh, wow.
She was talking about a man and how he had black hair and a mustache, and we were like, what?
Oops.
Well, yeah, it turned out it was my mother-in-law's ex-husband who had died.
Oh, wow.
Like a few months beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And they were looking through pictures, and my daughter was like, "Hey, that's him. That's I can't remember what she said his name was, but Jeffrey. Jeffrey was his middle name."
Oh, wow. Yeah, and kids, I'm telling you, yeah. Now, was he being nice or was he being nasty?
No, he was nice.
Okay.
He loved kids and life.
Okay.
So so he was fine. Once we realized who he was, hadn't heard anything back about it.
Oh, cool. Well, and that's good, because there's a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of Muggle parents won't take the time to research or find out about, things like that from their kids because, they've been taught by their mainstream path is that, everything's evil and blah, blah, blah. It's really nice when it turns out to not be that. I know that when my grandson was first born, he was here. My daughter was here for a while with him. And he would get that, look up into the corner and start giggling at things that we couldn't see. So I always attributed that to his guardian angels and my grandparents and stuff that, were not around to know them. Because if that baby was scared, then I would be worried. But that baby was so happy, I didn't have any qualms whatsoever about, whatever he was talking to. I'd turn around and say, hey, not sure who you are, but hey, you know. And then I would tell them, as long as you're here for positive and protection, you're welcome to stay. That kind of thing. And it's really cool to watch kids do that. For the most part, except until you get the one that, the chairs are being thrown around the house and it's the imaginary friend that is not so imaginary and not so much a friend. That's pretty bad because, as we've discussed, and I'm sure you know too, that, demons will sometimes impersonate children and impersonate things that are kind of benign to get the trust and to get the power because, they will suck that energy out of those sensitive kids because, it's like candy to them. They get that energy from them, and it's really that kind of stuff makes me nuts. Let me see. And that leads me to one other thing is, how do you feel about ending up having to combine different kinds of spiritual paths, shall we say, and dealing with entities or things in a house? Because it's of my opinion is that not all ghosts are Christian. So sometimes going at them from an all Christian perspective, I don't know that it's always going to do any good. How have you found that in any of your investigations to have to, go to something else versus?
Well, the group I used to hunt with, one of the guys was Christian, and he would go and, depending on what the client was comfortable with.
Right.
If they were fine with me, then I would do my pagan path stuff. If they wasn't, then he would take over and he would do the Christian thing. Walk around with the book,
right,
the Bible, and say prayers and passages and stuff like that. So yeah, we've done that before.
Yeah, no, and I'm meaning a little bit less about the client as opposed to the spirit, because I've seen all these things where these priests and pastors and stuff are going at these entities from they're threatening them with the Bible and Jesus Christ, and these are much older than Christianity entities, or maybe they're on a Native American burial ground. We're threatening this Native American or Indian, whatever, threatening them with Jesus is just like, really? I'm wondering if you run across that where, it's just not appropriate to throw the Christian Bible at some of these entities and spirits. I think it's kind of, too much sometimes because they're like, really? Yeah, okay.
Now, I myself haven't had to deal with that personally, but if I see what you're saying and I do agree with it, I'm friends with a shaman.
Yes.
With the Native American path. So, if somebody was needing help and it turned out something like that, I can contact him.
Right.
I completely agree with you on that.
Yeah, because I think it's just sometimes that gets overlooked. Everybody thinks, everybody presumes that everybody or every spirit or entity, whether they were once human or not, we don't know how long ago they were human. So what religion were they? Because Christianity might not be it, because that's not the only game in town. And I guess that's the other point I'm trying to make is it's not the only game in town. So sometimes you've got to do the actual research and the historical society and dig around what was on the property before that, because, you may be in a place where it's, and I'm not saying everybody is, but maybe it's a bunch of voodoo practitioners that have died there, and all these Christians moved in, and that's what's got them ticked off to begin with. So throwing Jesus Christ at them, they're just going to be like, okay, really? you know. So I guess that's,
Throwing gas on the fire.
yeah, absolutely. All right, well, we're getting close to the end here, and so I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell people out there, and I will get the links on the show page afterwards. But how do we get a hold of you if somebody wants to, or is there a way that somebody can reach out to you a little bit if they've got some questions?
Well, they can get a hold of me through my Facebook page, Danny Brown, or they can go to a haunting in Alabama. That is a paranormal group page that I have. If they have questions or they have a situation they need answers for, if I can't help them, then I can try to find somebody that can help them in their area.
Good, good. So, I mean, I know a lot of us kind of network. So if there's not somebody, if we don't know somebody, somebody's going to know somebody. And did you say that was, now, how is that spelled? Is it a haunting in Alabama or just haunting in Alabama?
A haunting in Alabama.
A haunting in Alabama for your Facebook page. Okay, I'll make sure we find that link and I will get that on the thing so you can, people can contact Danny if they like and chit chat a little bit more. I'd love to thank you. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. I know you've got a group of people with you, and they've been very good. They've been very quiet. So now is the time, y'all, to give yourself a little bit of a round of applause and say hey, because
Say hey, everybody.
you've actually got a fire circle getting ready to go on, and you're going to do a little bit of, what was it you were getting ready to do?
I'm sorry, what?
I said, what was it your circle was doing tonight?
We were going to work with grounding.
Always a wonderful thing. See, these are people that know what they're doing because grounding is important for pagans, especially doing paranormal investigation. I'm absolutely thrilled that you came on tonight, and it was wonderful talking with you. And we will have to do this again. And if you run across any kind of a really cool situation that you get into and you deal with, please feel free to hit me up and we can share it and talk about it and that kind of thing, because I'd love to have you on again.
I sure will, and I've had fun. It was a really great experience. Thank you for having me.
Anytime, Danny, and just, we'll chat quite a bit on Facebook. I'm sure we will. All right. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us tonight. With my guest, Danny Brown. And like I said, once I get the archive show up on the page, I will have links for his A Haunting in Alabama and his Facebook profile. I would like to remind you to join me coming up on Wednesday. Because today is Saturday. So Wednesday the 27th, I will be on my Something Witchy show. I will have, my guest will be Drew Ann Welsh, and we'll be talking about her new book. Guided by Spirit is the name of her book, and it's wonderful, and there's a lot of good information in there that we'll be sharing. So anyway, again, this has been Onyx Moon with P3. I'm really glad that you stuck around tonight. Feel free to post questions on the page if you have anything for me or for Danny, and I'll make sure they get answered. And other than that, have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you Wednesday, and if not, I'll see you next Saturday on P3. Have a great night, y'all.